Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great start to your weekend out there so far. Here to talk about what's going to happen weather-wise for your Saturday. Of course, once again, the topic is severe weather, especially for Texas. This will be day 3, which, if you date it back to even days past day 3, it's been really longer than that, but this is kind of day 3 of where kind of the epicenter of the worst weather as far as severe weather has been. And we're going to have a shot at strong tornadoes in areas of like western and southwestern Texas for today. So we're going to speak heavily on that right off the dot. And then we're going to speak on everybody else too, because we do have a lot of tropical downpours across the southeast this morning, wet conditions. We got a line of storms kind of scooting across areas of the Midwest, like Iowa especially, a little bit of rain in the Northeast, and we certainly have the beginning stages of what's going to be a powerful storm system already affecting you folks out west also. So we're going to speak on all this, break it down, take advantage of those timestamps, folks. They're there to help you folks out. I'll have everything sectioned out very well. After we're done talking about today, we'll start to talk about, once again, what could happen next week. Now, we are inside that day 3 outlook for Monday, so we do have kind of an outlook to look at, a more detailed outlook, if you will, but we'll have even more of a detailed outlook for tomorrow for Monday. So we'll break down this storm system that's going to influence the pattern next week and how we are going to have an all week long severe weather threat, most likely Monday through Friday. The weekend, things might calm back down, but Monday through Friday of next week most likely will run not only a shot at severe weather, but significant severe weather. Tornadoes, damaging winds, very large hail. So we're going to break it all down for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. So I've already kind of mentioned what's going on out there right now. We have this line of storms making its way, especially through Iowa. This is packing a punch, but not severe warned as of right now. We do have some rain falling across Minnesota, starting to move into the Great Lakes region. Tropical downpours moving very slow across like Georgia, the Carolinas, even areas of Tennessee, up the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. Waking up to some rainy conditions in the Delmarva area and Pennsylvania also, with a little bit of rain kind of moving throughout the interior sections of New England. And then we have a lot of moisture making its way into Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. We're going to speak on this also. This is the beginning stages. And guys, I cannot talk this morning. I'm just going to let you guys know that right ahead of time. We got some moisture, the beginning stages of this storm system that's going to bring all the severe weather all week long. Next week is starting to move its way into the western U.S. So this is what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories ahead of this big-time system. We have a lot of wind alerts. In this mustard color, that's high wind warnings. In this darker color right here, that's high wind watches. That will probably get upgraded to some sort of wind alert. Winter storm warnings now up for the Sierra Nevada. We kind of thought that would happen. It certainly has. We have some winter weather advisories in the northern California higher elevation region. Same thing up here in Oregon. Red flag warnings up in New Mexico, as you're going to get just a very dry shot of air as this trough ejects across the plains. Flood watches continue across Oklahoma and areas of Texas here in this green color. Dense fog along the Mississippi River Valley region and the Delta area. We got some fog scattered about across the southeast, even where you don't have dense fog advisories. So you can see there's a big system on the way based off all these alerts out west. It's been very quiet out here, especially in the southwest. It's definitely going to get much more active, at least with winds. Not everybody's going to get widespread rain, but with winds for sure. Excessive rainfall outlook. Need some water. We have a slight risk, which is at least a 15% chance in this yellow area of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles at any given point. Okay, so we do have a risk of flooding. But I want to tell you guys, I'm actually very surprised they don't have a marginal risk for areas of the southeast today. I do think we have an opportunity to get a lot of rain in some areas in the southeast today. And some of these areas hasn't really got a lot of rain. If you follow me on social media, you saw me post a video yesterday of my little girls playing in just the most random downpour I've ever seen. I mean, they were just outside riding their bikes, and it just went within 20 seconds from doing nothing to absolutely just downpour. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to let them play. And I thought about posting it on YouTube. I might do it a little bit later, but they were just out there playing in a downpour. It was awesome. But we got over a quarter-inch of rain right up the road, got nothing. So you just never know. You just never know how much rain your area is going to get and somebody else isn't. That's especially the case in the summer. But of course, we do run the risk of severe weather today. Marginal risk extending from Chicago all the way down to Texas. Slight risk, level 2 out of 5 in the yellow. Southeastern sections of New Mexico, including central Texas, and then areas of southwestern and western Texas also. Enhanced risk right here, which has actually gotten larger and actually shrunk to the south. If you watched last night's video, I thought it would kind of bump up to the north a little bit, but the cold front is progressing pretty nicely this morning and will really just stabilize the atmosphere a little bit more up here to the north in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas and northern New Mexico. Enhanced risk up and down here. So let's just zoom into this area, see what this is driven off of. There it is, a little bit closer look. San Angelo, Midland, Fort Stockton, areas just south and southwest of Abilene. Orange, enhanced risk. And then you got the slight risk, which almost goes all the way to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Austin, pretty much included in this. San Antonio, you're in the marginal risk, but you guys could get nasty weather too. Lubbock, you're in the slight risk. So what is this driven off of? Well, you look right here in the yellow, that's a 10% risk of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher. We are going to have some nasty supercells down here deep into Texas this afternoon, this evening. It's going to be another one of those days where you're going to be following the storm chasers and they're going to get some stovepipe tornadoes, some weird flow with these storms, because a lot of times when you don't have a lot of flow aloft, and that's going to be the case with this, these storms get deviant motions with them, which we saw yesterday with the storm, which means you get a tornado and it kind of controls its own sometimes when you don't have a lot of flow pushing it one way or the other. So these are very dangerous storms to trap because most of the time tornadoes move, in one general direction. But sometimes they can dance around in like a 10-mile radius, kind of like what happened yesterday, right outside the San Angelo region, I believe it was. But it's going to be a weird day today like this too, but they're even higher in confidence that we were going to have strong tornadoes today than they were the last 2 days. And we know what happened in Texas the last 2 days, right? So even higher confidence in stronger tornadoes. So in the brown area, that's a 5% risk of a tornado. And then the green, that's a 2% risk of a tornado. And then the wind threat is there. Is the wind outlook. In the yellow, that's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. So we have that to worry about too. All right, but then the health threat is going to be massive today. You got a cold front moving in, bringing in cooler, drier air aloft. This is going to provide that colder air aloft, and it's going to provide, the atmosphere capable of producing very large hail. So in this case, in the red, 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. In the yellow, that's a 15% risk, but if you notice the black outline region with the black dashes going in between, that's a hatched risk, which means there's a chance of significant severe weather. In this case, it's being hail, which means you have a 10% chance of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. But guys, we're probably going to get hail that's even bigger than that. Could be gigantic in size. I'm talking about 3 to 4 inch in diameter or larger with some of these storms today. So let's just jump right into it. Let's look what the radar could look like. And we're just going to look at the HRRR model, but I think it has a decent handle on this. And I know it kind of has abbreviated, letters as far as the town names and stuff. But I mean, ABI, that's Abilene, San Angelo down here, Odessa right here, Lubbock up here, Fort Stockton over here. Just kind of giving you guys an idea, right? Starting off this morning, obviously not a whole lot going on. Throughout this morning, the energy is going to get really active. The atmosphere is going to get primed. The Cape levels will build that storm fuel needed for these storms to really eat off of once they do develop. And then we get, and if you're confused about the time frame, back this up 1 hour. This is 2 p.m. Central Time. This only shows up in Eastern Time. So this is 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Back it up 1 hour, 2 p.m. Okay. You keep going, and then bang, these storms kind of initiate. All right, they even fire up here in southeastern New Mexico, which we can't ignore either. You guys could definitely get some tornadoes with these storms. And then, bang, look at that. Look at that 1 hour difference. 3 p.m., 4 p.m. All these are supercells, guys. And while these storms are discrete earlier in the day, every single one of them will have the capability of producing a tornado and a chance to produce a strong tornado. Even some supercells near Abilene over here. But of course, I think these are developed south of Lubbock because I think that cold front moves in up here and kind of stabilizes the atmosphere. But man, look at this storm north of Odessa. Large, very large hail, guys, is capable of these, even where they aren't producing tornadoes. But I mean, I'm telling you, we are going to have multiple tornadoes, I think, today, this afternoon, this evening in southwestern Texas. I mean, look at these supercells. Look at these supercells up here in southeastern. I think that's Hobbs, New Mexico. I think that's what the town name's called. But Fort Stockton, you guys might do something today also. Look at this supercell right in here, here. They're scattered about. And then once we start to get to 7, 8 p.m., I think these start to congeal with one another. Still have an ongoing tornado threat. I think it lessens somewhat. But look at these storms also up here, Oklahoma City Point South. You don't want to ignore these either. But then these storms will kind of cluster up. Still a prime atmosphere for all hazards, kind of feeding into the kind of southern flank of these storms. So they're still going to have the opportunity to produce all hazards. Big storms up here. Also in southern Oklahoma. Don't ignore these. It's around 9 p.m. And then these kind of cluster up, and a flash flooding threat could develop in central Texas later on tonight into the overnight hours. Look at this large area of embedded storms, very heavy rain surging across the central portion of Texas. Even heavy rain up here in southern Oklahoma, northern Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, washout overnight. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning with leftover energy, but still stormy, most likely. It's a little bit quieter of a morning this morning in Texas compared to the last 2 mornings, but it's not going to be quiet for long. So you look at the updraft velocity swath. It's starting off this morning, 9, 10 a.m. Obviously not a whole lot going on. Watch how the screen lights up in this area when it picks up rotation with these storms. The updraft velocity swath tells us where this particular run is trying to show us where rotation is going to be with these storms. Watch how it lights up down here in Texas and New Mexico. Bang, there it is. Immediately picks up on those updrafts. They're spinning out here. And you are going to have rotating thunderstorms, no doubt, down here. Strong tornadoes are possible in Texas today. This is going to be, like I said, one of those days where, you follow these well-known storm chasers. You watch their live feed. You do whatever feed you watch. A lot of people are into that, and I like watching it too. But they are going to probably have some insane footage today, and hopefully they can do, continue to do an awesome job like they have been doing of keeping people aware, saving people's lives. But man, there is going to be some crazy action in Texas and New Mexico today, I think. I really do. So please be aware if you live, Odessa, even all the way up to Lubbock, Abilene, down to Fort Stockton, everybody in between, all the way down to San Angelo, you might as well say. I'm telling you, be aware of this. Be aware of this. You will see these storms coming, no doubt. Okay? And then rainfall. I mean, this rain will add up 2, 3, maybe 4 inches of rain. Look here, right in the heart of Texas, a lot of rain, even 1 inch, inch and a quarter here in southern Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma. A lot of rain overnight once again. It's gotten very dry in this neck of the woods over the last couple years. You're starting off the summer very fortunate. Now you're having to deal with the nasty weather, but at least you're getting some rain in this area. So if you do hit a dry spell, at least you got some rain earlier in the summer, late spring, which is, right now, obviously. So just wanted to talk about this. You guys, please take this serious. I know obviously there's not higher populations out here, higher populated towns, big towns and cities, but there is some, Odessa, there is some communities that obviously more people live in. So please take this serious today. Let's talk about the rest of the country. All right. Southeast today, we already got a lot of shower and storm activity. I would say the HRRR model is a little bit, it's not really picking up on it as much as what's actually out there. But I mean, already, when we get to about midday, look at all this shower and storm activity developing across the southern Apps regions, the western Carolinas, even northern Georgia. We got some storms here in Arkansas too you don't want to ignore. And I think they will develop, kind of sweep southeastward. Could make it all the way to the Mississippi Delta region. Memphis, heads up, maybe all the way down to Little Rock. Look at these pop-up showers and storms along the Gulf coastline, points north, just a few hours inland also. We're going to have some showers and storms. By the way, in Florida, it's going to get very hot this coming week. I'll talk about that more here in the coming videos. There's so much to discuss. But record-breaking heat for especially central and west central, the peninsula of Florida. I mean, I'm talking about like the upper 90s, which is brutal for Florida because you have the high humidity down here too. We'll talk about that more here to come. But look at all this scattered shower and storm activity up here in the Carolinas. Just pivoting through as we have some energy, some upper energy kind of flying through. Some storms down here, storms up here. A lot of storm activity, though, concentrated here in the Carolinas, points north. And I'm telling you, some of these storms will kind of flow over the same areas. A little bit closer look at the Carolinas here. Starting off this morning, already dealing with some showers and storms. The HRRR model likes the idea of a more concentrated area of showers and storms here in the Triad of North Carolina, Piedmont of NC here, upstate of South Carolina. For people wondering, Mitch, is this going to be severe weather? It could be. You could have a stronger severe storm. But I don't think you're going to have like massive catastrophic hail like you guys saw in York County a couple weeks ago. It's not going to be that kind of setup. It's not typical summer type setup. Strong storm or two is very possible. But outside of that, guys, I really think that these storms, the worst that they're going to produce is some lightning and thunder and maybe some small hail and then torrential downpours. I mean, we start to get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, scattered showers and storms everywhere across the southern Alps too, all the way up into West Virginia. And some of these could just roll over the same areas. That's why I do think there's an opportunity for a lot of rain to fall across the Carolinas. I do. So please be aware of that. And this will continue all the way into daybreak tomorrow. And we're probably still going to be dealing with a lot of moisture. So just if you live in the Carolinas, Central Carolinas, Western Carolinas, down to North Georgia, all across the Southern and Central Alps region, go on and just expect kind of just a cloudy-ish on and off rain and storm type day. Northeast today, kind of quiet, a little bit of shower activity across the interior New England region. But as you can tell, we get to about midday, a couple hours after. We got some storms, some showers down here in southern Ohio, West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, Virginia. These will kind of rumble through this entire region. I could even get some scattered downpours up to Cleveland, maybe Detroit. More so just widespread light rain across the Delmarva, areas of eastern PA, New Jersey. By the time we get into later this evening, some of the storm activity will begin to diminish, but it's still ongoing a little bit here in the Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia line right in here. And then we're getting into the overnight hours, just some widespread rains, heavy at times across like the mid-Atlantic. We'll kind of begin to move in from the southwest to the northeast across areas of the northeast. And by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, widespread light to moderate rain across New York State, areas of PA, New Jersey, New York City, starting to move into southern New England also. So a little bit closer look at these showers and storms in West Virginia today, especially in surrounding states. You guys are going to have definitely an active day as far as storms. Just like I said, nothing too crazy like you've seen over the last several weeks. But some showers and storms will pivot through the entire state this afternoon. This is what the radar could look like around 6 p.m. this afternoon, this evening. Some storms rumbling through Charleston all the way up into northern West Virginia, western Virginia. Storms making their way through eastern Kentucky, southern Ohio. Could get a lot of rain from these. So be aware, make plans accordingly. If you got any outdoor activities, guys, I can already tell you it's probably going to mess with those outdoor activities big time. We've already talked about most of the south central U.S., especially Texas. So not going to speak on Oklahoma and Texas again. But like I said, I do want to mention these showers and storms surging through the northeast sections of Arkansas, southeast sections of Missouri. Could get some isolated, very strong to severe storms. Very possible. Up here in Illinois, look at those storms kind of surging through the state this evening. Very possible. And then we get into the overnight hours, and we could get some showers and storms that make their way all the way up in here, up into like southern sections of Kansas. Eventually all the way up into the Kansas City area, most likely tomorrow morning. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning in the Texarkana region with a lot of heavy shower, maybe embedded storm activity. And just basically where Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana kind of all get close to one another. A lot of rain that you're waking up to tomorrow morning for sure. So north central U.S., really just one big sweeping area of moisture that's sweeping throughout the upper Midwest with a weak area of low pressure. We'll get some rain throughout northern Wisconsin, starting to move into the western UP of Michigan, northeastern Minnesota also. We'll get some rain this afternoon. And we do have some showers and storms that we'll try to develop here in eastern, southeastern Iowa, eventually kind of skirting their way across areas of Illinois. Could get some showers and storms as far north as like Green Bay, Milwaukee, Chicago later on this evening. And then the leftover energy will continue to surge throughout the UP, the lower Michigan. And then by the time I'm waking up tomorrow morning, much quieter conditions. But, if you live down here in the Midwest, you cannot rule out a strong to severe storm or two for sure. Western U.S., we're dealing with the moisture moving onshore. This will continue to take over. By the time we get into early this afternoon, you got snow flying around the higher elevations of Sierra Nevada, Cascades of Oregon. You got to get on up there. Area rain will kind of grind down all of California. So, it's not raining in San Francisco quite yet, but by the time you get here in the next couple hours, it will be raining. So kind of a wet midday here in San Fran for sure. We got moisture across southwestern and western sections of Oregon, and this will continue to overspread the eastern sections of these states, especially Oregon. Will get some rain that starts to move into Nevada, as you can tell. Rain starting to move into Idaho, western Idaho, as we start to get into this evening, and higher elevation snow, obviously. And then by the time we were getting into tomorrow morning, maybe some showers make it down to you, Ron, down in San Diego, maybe. But This looks like it's going to kind of be positioned more so to your north across the central western U.S., but waking up tomorrow morning, higher elevation snow, higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain, raining in Seattle. And then we're going to just take it into Sunday, and we continue just to deal. This is really mainly confined to the northwest. We just continue to deal with a lot of moisture across this region for sure. And I can tell you there's a lot of high winds ongoing down here. And in fact, we'll talk about that here in a second. But rainfall between now and this weekend, this is precipitation I might want to add. A lot, obviously, with the lifting mechanism up against the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada Cascades. It'll squeeze out all the moisture, but a lot of moisture across the northern Rockies, central Rockies, and then certainly the immediate western U.S. And as far as snowfall between now and the next 2 days, you're obviously going to have a lot of snow across the central Rockies, the Sierra Nevada, but you got to get on up there in higher elevation for sure. So definitely be aware of that. And then high winds across the southwest. Here it is, 40, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts are possible to likely across these areas. But of course, this will be confined more to those higher elevated regions for sure. So just keep that in mind. If you're in the lower elevations like the big cities of LA, San Diego, just some gusty winds are possible with this. But this is between now and Monday morning. Predicted wind gusts from the National Weather Service. Definitely some higher end wind gusts are out there. And just be aware of this, very windy conditions for sure coming up. But temperatures, guys, look at this really quick. As you can tell, remember what I spoke about this cold front that's going to dip down to Texas? You can actually see the cold front right in here, right? I mean, you got much cooler temperatures across the plains. This won't last long because warm and moist air will build back in place ahead of our next system. But 40s and 50s, a chilly Saturday. And then you got the 70s and 80s, much more humid, warm air mass stretching all the way up into the Great Lakes region, all the way up into Canada, 60s and 70s for highs. And some of these areas, these 70s and 80s will be clouds and rainy conditions, but you do have the pocket of cooler air up here because of some of this rain. So it'll be a weird day in like Pennsylvania, Maryland, maybe Northern Virginia, where you're kind of trapped in the 40s and 50s. But areas surrounding your location where you're able to warm up, break free of those clouds, it might, warm up into, like the 60s and 70s. Just kind of a weird pocket of cooler air right in here. But you continue to move out west, around average, warmer in the southwest, but, certainly much cooler whether the system is moving in across areas of Oregon, California. Definitely much cooler air in place. So let's go on and re-talk about all this severe weather coming up. But for tomorrow, there will be a risk of severe weather, even a little pocket that's been introduced up here in areas of PA and Ohio and northern West Virginia. Level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. This is for tomorrow, for our Sunday. And we got a much larger area. Could upgrade to a slight risk. We'll see what happens. For the southern and central Mississippi Valley here, all of Arkansas, a good chunk of Louisiana. Once again, in Texas, eastern Texas, and then eastern Oklahoma. Level 1 out of 5 risk. So we'll just watch out for some gusty winds with this and some small hail, certainly with these storms. But this is not the big day. The big system comes in Monday. All right. Enhanced risk now up. This is likely going to upgrade to a moderate risk at some point over the next couple of days. But as of right now, enhanced risk in the orange. This includes southern, southeastern Nebraska, right through the heart of Kansas, right? And then all the way through the heart of Oklahoma. All right. Lincoln, down to Oklahoma City, all the way down to the Red River. Slight risk in the yellow, level 2 out of 5. Goes all the way to a very small section of South Dakota. Includes areas of Missouri, areas of Arkansas, all the way down to northern Texas. Kansas City's included in this, Springfield, all the way down to Fayetteville. And then we got the marginal risk around this, okay? I do expect a moderate risk to get issued probably inside this enhanced risk here in the next couple of days. All right, but this is obviously going to be the epicenter of the worst weather for Monday. The good news about this, and I'll talk about this here in a second, for the plains, especially the central and northern plains, it looks like a one-day deal because a cold front sweeps in, stabilizes the atmosphere as of right now. It's once you get east and south of these areas is where it can be multiple days, potentially. I want to note, though, of course, you have a huge area that runs the risk of thunderstorms. I think it's going to be very stormy in the southeast also for Monday. So as of right now, at day 3, all we know, there is no breakdown of the 3 categories as far as wind, hail, and tornado outlook. We just know that there is a 30% chance in the red area of severe weather within 25 miles at any given point. In the yellow, 15% risk of that. But if you note here in the black out, I love when it does that. That's sarcasm, I don't. The black outline region right in here, that is a 10% risk of significant severe weather. So that's probably going to be all hazards in this case, guys. Strong tornadoes, very large hail, and damaging winds. I think all of them will be issued with this. I think you'll have a hatched risk for all categories, all three categories. Okay? But this is what we know as of right now. So let's break down this threat. All right, not going to show you the blue blobs and the orange blobs this time. We're just going to kind of show you the ingredients because I do think 500 millibar wind flow does do a fantastic job of also showing this upper level low, this upper trough of low pressure, if you will. And that's exactly what this is. This is starting off as we're getting into Sunday morning. Here it is, bringing all these high winds across. Now this is flow at 500 millibars. So this is 19,000 feet up in the air. But this is what's bringing all these high winds at the surface also across the southwest. So you keep this going, right? We start to get into our Sunday afternoon. There it comes, already kind of influencing a little bit of flow down here in the southern plains. But the real deal comes in as we start to get into Monday morning. If you notice how it tilted, like it looks like it's tilting downward like this. It's kind of, I've talked about this a lot over the last few videos. This is what we call neutrally tilted, right? And then this entire area of low pressure, this basically this upper trough begins to tilt like this. It becomes negatively tilted. When these troughs become negatively tilted, the storm system really begins to strengthen. We have a development of a surface low, and the ingredients begin to get a little bit more high end for just all kinds of weather. In this case, severe weather. So this thing becomes negatively tilted. At this point, we have a stout mid-level flow across all of the plains, all the way up here into the Dakotas. It's just, what is your moisture levels going to be? And that's what we're about to talk about here in a second. And you see all this flow across this region, and especially this area right in here, because you get a little bit too far west into this mid-level flow, you start to get involved into that cold front and that dry air. Just because you have this big area of purple, that doesn't mean everybody in the purple is going to get severe weather. Remember, this is at 500 millibars. What's going on at the surface? At the surface, we probably have some sort of cold front right in here, creating a dry line. Okay? So all the severe weather is going to be right here, the exit region of this mid-level flow, which is right in here. Okay? This is providing ample amount of what we call kinematics, wind flow aloft that supports damaging winds and tornadoes, because we'll have a spin in the atmosphere at different areas of different areas aloft in the atmosphere. The winds will actually shift directions, what we call directional shear. So we continue to, look at Monday and how this evolves. Surface low probably up into here somewhere. And this is probably going to aid in a low-level jet that's going to develop over this entire region. This is the mid-level jet. Low-level jet is about a mile above our heads. What we're looking at here with this mid-level jet, 50 to 60, 65 knots. That's, way, like I said, like 18,000 feet up in the air. Okay, but we look at this a lot when we try to find the forcing for these thunderstorms. So this is Monday's threat, okay? And we're just going to focus in on Monday for a second, then we'll go to the other days. You look at that low-level moisture, your thermodynamics. What's the moisture level? Well, because this upper trough is basically yanking in a flow out the south, the southwest. You can see the wind barbs right in here pointing to the southwest. That means the flow in this level of the atmosphere is moving basically from the southwest, okay? This is yanking in low-level moisture all the way up into South Dakota. And you can see this here. Only a very small section of South Dakota shows up, but we'll look at Monday morning and look how all this moisture gets yanked in all the way up into South Dakota. But this is it. This is the best forcing area right in here across the plains. And this is what I'm talking about that cold front, right? All right, you got dew points in the 20s, the teens, right back here. And like as far east as western Kansas, western Nebraska. This is not going to support severe weather. This will. This is very moist air. Dew points in the 60s. Air you can wear. It's very humid outside. Okay? Moist air is an ingredient for severe weather, needed for severe weather. So, of course, you have that here. Dew points well into the 60s. Supportive enough for severe weather. So then you have your high levels of CAPE because you have your high levels of surface moisture. And you keep on looking. Let's just go on and look right into Monday afternoon, which is, of course, the prime heating of the day. You got Cape levels reaching well over 2,000, almost 2,500 joules per kilogram. Even some spikes of Cape all the way up here into eastern sections of Nebraska. Even 1,000 joules per kilogram of Cape will get this done, mixed layer Cape. This is your storm fuel. In response to this higher moisture level, your Cape levels will rise too. Now, I know you're thinking, if you're living in Texas, you're thinking, well, you're cutting us off down here. Well, more of a conditional threat down here, but not as good of forcing. So if you can get some thunderstorms down here that form in Texas, all hazards are possible. Okay, definitely a high-end threat. But your best forcing is up here. Your best, what I'm saying, is overlapping of conditions of severe weather ingredients is right up here in Kansas and surrounding states. Okay, one of the last things you'll look at is that low-level jet, right? And here it is. Right when that surface low is developing way up into the Dakotas and the northern plains, that low-level jet begins to increase to the south, and we get this 30 to 40 knot, maybe 45 knot low-level jet, which is plenty of low-level flow and low-level shear for tornadoes. Low-level jet, something big time that we look at for damaging winds and tornadoes, and you will have that right over Kansas. That's enough. Even like a 20 to 30 knot low-level jet will get the job done in some cases, and this is coming right out the south. Mid-level flow coming right out the southwest. That changing in directions from the low levels of the atmosphere to the mid levels of the atmosphere causes a spin in the atmosphere. Therefore, you get a spin at the surface, which could be tornadoes. So that's your threat. And we're not in range of the short range model guidance. We're almost in the range of the NAM, but not quite. But I think that it's doing a great job, just even the Euro, of showing how these storms evolve. I think they form as early as lunchtime across Nebraska, areas of Kansas, for Monday. And here they are exploding right off the bat here. And I think the fail mode with Monday, not a lot of people are talking about that, is this. If these storms can just basically form and immediately go linear, you are still going to have a disruptive severe weather threat, but it will lessen the tornado threat and become primarily a damaging wind threat, but with an embedded tornado threat. But if any storms get even just semi-discrete for Monday, you got a risk of a higher end tornado. I'm not just talking about an EF2. I'm talking about something stronger. That's just what we got to watch for. But there's going to be plenty of forcing right into here. No doubt about it that storms will form in the central plains of Kansas and Nebraska. Down here, it's a bigger question mark. And these storms will be rumbling, all throughout, the rest of the Midwest. And eventually they will form deeper into the night, most likely in Oklahoma. And we're probably going to get storms down here in Oklahoma and Texas too with this. It's just, I don't think they'll be as widespread in coverage. Okay. Now, of course, we get into day 4, Tuesday, next Tuesday, May the 7th, I believe. Yeah. Day 5 and day 6, day 7. Okay. Day 4 for Tuesday. It looks a little bit different now, right? What we're going to watch for, this other surface low that creates all this severe weather across the plains, it's going to kind of meander up here. What we'll watch for is another surface low, kind of at the base of this flow from this trough, that's going to develop somewhere in the Midwest and then kind of drift into the upper Midwest. This is going to promote another severe weather threat for the Midwest. Obviously, these states include Iowa, areas of Kansas, all of Illinois, all of Indiana, and western sections of of Kentucky and Tennessee, through the heart of Arkansas, all the way to the Texarkana region, even including areas of Michigan, Wisconsin, and western Ohio. 15% risk of severe weather. All right, day 5. Not as far shunted to the southwest anymore. This now is even still up here in the Midwest and even areas of the Ohio Valley. Kind of cuts it off to the top. There's going to be a warm front somewhere in here. And we talked about this heavily in last night's video, where it's going to separate dry air and moist air. Where if you're on the dry side of this, no severe weather most likely. If you're on the warm and moist side of this, severe weather most likely. And this is a huge area right in here throughout the central and upper Mississippi Valley, areas of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, all the way down here into the sections of Texas and Southern Plains. Okay. And then we got day 6. It says predictability too low. This is for Thursday. And then day 5. But I can tell you right now, we're going to have severe weather for both days. They're not high enough in confidence to put an outlook up. But I guarantee you that'll change here in the next day or two. And to wrap this video up, same thing. All right. This is your flow at the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Right? And to keep this going, watch how it gets kind of strung out. We'll take it to Tuesday afternoon. There's that exit region of the jet right here. Now you notice everybody in this area right here is immediately kind of more closer to the actual cyclone aloft. the kind of the upper level low. So everybody kind of up here in the plains, you're more stable. Down here, there's going to be some sort of some sort of boundary, a warm front and a cold front kind of meeting right into here. So you're going to have very warm and moist air right into this region, and you're going to have flow running on top of that air. So what does that mean? A large, broad area of overlapping ingredients to support severe weather. So you're probably going to get an enhanced risk here in the next outlook, probably tomorrow morning, somewhere in the Midwest and Ohio Valley also, maybe the Southern Plains. So big time risk, big time flow aloft is what I'm saying. And then we start to get into, come on, get in motion. Then we start to get into Wednesday. Same thing, guys. It gets kind of weird, but you still got all this flow. And you got to watch the southern edge of this flow. Once you get to the northern edge of this flow up here, and I wish I had my cursor up to draw on this, you're dealing with much more drier air. There's going to be a boundary embedded in this flow somewhere in here, separating dry and moist air. So the southern edge of this purple area, this belt of 50 to 60 knot mid-level flow, that's where you're probably going to have your highest threat of severe weather. You see these little buckles right in here in the isobars? That's energy. Flatter lines, not as much energy. Right in here, you probably got storms Wednesday afternoon in Missouri, based off the Euro, all across this region. And then we start to make our way into Thursday, same thing. Large area of flow right here in this region. Just where's your warm and moist air at? And then we even get into Friday. All right. This is when, things could get active for the southeast. We just got to figure that one out. And you look at that low level moisture in response to basically everything already being in place. That mid-level flow is riding right over this incredibly moist atmosphere. Dew points in the 60s, low 70s, very, very moist air right here in place. Very, very moist air. Okay, so kinematics, thermodynamics, overlapping for a very large area. We just looked at your kinematics, that mid-level flow, which is a great thing to look at this range. What about your thermodynamics, your surface moisture, surface temperature, your CAPE levels? Higher dew points typically mean higher CAPE levels. So you're going to have some juice in the atmosphere to work with right here into this region. And, this is Tuesday and Wednesday is when you can really see what happens here. Starting to get into Wednesday afternoon. And I'm having to go up here and click this, guys, because it's being weird. Look how you can tell where there's some sort of boundary in place right here. Notice how you go from dew points in the 60s in the southern sections of the Midwest and Ohio Valley states to the 50s on the northern section, even the 40s. That is your boundary separating very moist, unstable air with dry, stable air. So where does this boundary set up? That's a huge question. You got plenty of flow riding over all this moist air, but where does the boundary set up? So I think this entire area that you have dew points in the 60s and 70s run the risk of severe weather. The big question is down here in the southeast, do you have enough flow to really get storms going in the upper levels of the atmosphere, even though you have very moist air? And then the Thursday, this is when that flow starts to get closer in the upper levels of the atmosphere, that wind flow aloft, favorable wind flow aloft. So this is when the severe weather threat could begin to increase for areas of the deep south to southeast. And then you get into Friday, and, well, this took us all the way to, this is it, Friday. This is when that cold front begins to ooze in. Look how it begins to stabilize the atmosphere across areas of, the south central U.S., but you're still hanging on to that very moist air Friday across the southeast. And then this cold front pretty much sweeps throughout the weekend, really stabilizing the atmosphere. And, as far as storms, guys, the only reason I'm showing you this is because I want you to see that, look, there's that low, that secondary low. There's the low that brings all the severe weather for Monday. Here's the low that brings the severe weather for Tuesday. Look at all these storms erupting across the Midwest, all the way up into Michigan. These will be producing all hazards with the quick development of a surface low that's going to be well over sub 1,000 millibar. The lower that number, the stronger the storm system, the more crazy the weather can get as far as severe weather. And then that low kind of spins around, and then we get into Wednesday. We're probably going to have another low that develops at the base of this area of low pressure. And this is going to bring more severe weather across this region, most likely. See these splotches of greens and orange and yellow? And then we get into Thursday. There's that low screeching across areas of the eastern U.S., cutting across. This is probably bringing severe weather potential for the Alps, the mid-Atlantic, maybe as far south as the southeast. And then what happens as we get into Friday? Another surface low tries to develop at the base of this trough, right into here. This could bring severe weather a little bit further south across the southeast for Friday. So you can see all these lows that develop. It's going to bring multiple rounds of severe weather. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful and safe day, especially down in Texas.